what does God require in the first, second and third commandments? First, that we know and trust God as the only true and living God. Second, that we avoid all idolatry and do not worship God improperly. Third, that we treat God's name with fear and reverence, honouring also his word and works. In questions 9 to 12, we follow Jesus' example and go a little deeper into the 10 Commandments. And the first 3 commandments help us answer 3 questions. Who do we trust and worship? How should we trust and worship? And how can all of life be about trust and worship? So first of all, who do we trust and worship? There are all sorts of ideas about God. Some religions have one God, others have many gods. Some people might not believe in God, but there is something that is most important for them, and that's like their God. But the Father loves us so much that he does not want us to be taken in by counterfeit gods. See, only the Son Jesus is full of light and life and love. So don't trust or worship any other God than the real God, Father, Son and Holy Spirit. Only the true and living God has the power to create, the authority to command, the compassion to save, and the faithfulness to keep all his promises. Second, how should we trust and worship? We're told we should avoid all idolatry and make sure we do not worship God improperly. So we should not try to make up ideas about God, but listen to him in the Bible and see what he's really like as we look at Jesus. If you wanted to honour me on my birthday, for example, you would want to know what I like. Bring me a plate of Marmite sandwiches and I won't be pleased. Don't like Marmite. To honour God, we need to know what he likes, what he wants. Otherwise, we're making idols, false ideas about God. We should not make images of God to worship because they always end up representing what we think rather than what he says. And then third, how can all of life be about trust and worship? We need God at the centre of our life, fearing and reverencing his name, not taking it lightly. The third commandment is important for the way we speak. Don't use God's name or Jesus' name badly. But it's more than that. In baptism, we are given God's name. We're baptised into the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. So now in everything we do, we carry God's name. We can carry his name in a good way, honouring him, or in a bad way, ignoring him or misrepresenting him. As those who carry God's name, if we live with Jesus at the centre, revering the fact that we belong to God, living according to his word, celebrating his works, then all of life can be about trusting God and worshipping him. The 10 Commandments begin with God, just like the Lord's Prayer begins with God. When we begin with God, everything has its right place. That's how we can glorify him. So what does God require in the first, second and third commandments? First, that we know and trust God as the only true and living God. Second, that we avoid all idolatry and do not worship God improperly. Third, that we treat God's name with fear and reverence, honouring also his word and works.